So again, that's Tech Agnostic is the book
Hmm.
that we're talking about here. And so in 2003, the famous technologist and author Jaron Lanier wrote that artificial intelligence is better understood as a belief system instead of a technology. Um, AI still hasn't delivered on kind of sci-fi promises of autonomous robots with intelligence indistinguishable from ours. But in the last 2 years, for me, the watershed moment was GPT-4's release in March of last year. That blew my mind and made me think, okay, this might happen in our lifetime. And some people think it's going to happen too. Soon, very soon. You mentioned how Ray Kurzweil said it's near, the singularity is near. Now it's nearer. He predicts that we'll have artificial general intelligence before 2029. Sam Altman, OpenAI CEO, thinks next year,
Yep.
2025.
Yep.
Um, so, your book, Tech Agnostic, delves into the implications of portraying tech as a messianic force like this. Um, could you elaborate on these kinds of narratives, especially regarding the singularity as being this kind of religious event that's coming soon? I guess it's kind of like, what's that? What is it in? It's like the end of days,
Yeah, it is. I mean, it is very much like the end of days. In the Revelation,
right?
which is the English word for the Greek word apocalypse.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah,
Revelation means apocalypse.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Or apocalypse means revelation.
Right.
That the new world will be revealed,
Hmm.
and for some, that's a good that's going to be fun and pleasurable. And for others, that's going to be utter doom and disaster. Right.
So, given what you've just said, and how this, singularity, AGI coming can be perceived as this kind of end of days. Why do these why do these narratives exist? Why do we choose to believe them? And actually, I've got to say that kind of thing for me, like I don't know if we're going to have AGI next year, like Sam Altman thinks, or in 2029, like Ray Kurzweil thinks. But since GPT-4 came out, I think it's probably likely in
Mm.
my lifetime. And I also do believe that whenever it arrives, and it isn't like one event, because that's also like that's like I think like an oversimplistic thing to say that it's like one event. But gradually over time, over the coming years, or maybe over the coming decades, AI systems seem like they could become so much more intelligent than us that we might start to just trust them to run off, with their own processes because we're like, well, you know what? They should just be governing because they're doing it like, we've run all these simulations and they do it way better than us. Or we run these small pilots, they do it way better than us. And then it goes, AGI systems go off and maybe very rapidly create artificial super intelligences that are far beyond, they could theoretically have a kind of intelligence that is far beyond what could be explained to us, in the same way that I can't explain, no matter how much time I spend trying to explain partial derivative calculus to a chimpanzee. A chimpanzee is almost as smart as us, but I have no chance of explaining partial derivative calculus. And in that same way, the artificial superintelligence that could come very hot on the heels of artificial general intelligence may have ways of understanding the world that just don't make sense to us. But so for me, even I guess I, without really realizing it until we had this conversation today, I suppose in my mind, I am kind of thinking of the singularity as kind of a religious event because it's so difficult to predict what's going to come past it. And I'm just kind of hopeful, I guess, as an optimistic person,
Mm.
that it's going to be good for most people on the planet, if not maybe even everyone.
Let's just take a look at what you've just described and analyze it as though we were sort of breaking down the content of and the structure of what you just laid out in a divinity school. What you've laid out sounds very much like the structure of a kind of new religious vision for society. You're talking about, my words now. I'm paraphrasing you very loosely because I'm trying to make a point. But it sounds to me like a kind of slow moving, multi stage rapture where, the people who are good, who should benefit from this new all-powerful technology, this force greater than us, than any of us and all of us even, will rise in some literal or metaphorical way to benefit from such a thing. Um, Anybody that does not, I suppose, deserve to be benefiting from such a thing, maybe because their behavior is bad, they're mean, they're naughty, they're not the right race or gender. I don't know. That they're going to be, in other words, the all-seeing, all-knowing technology will mete out justice, will it not? I mean, if not, right? Like, there's 2
I guess it
choices here.
has to. It
There's
has
2
to.
choices here. Either the thing has to be completely capricious and really, really nasty, or it has to be, positive and healthy and right, like, it's there's sort of 2 choices, for that, right? Um, and so, I guess the point that I want to make here is people have always wanted and needed, a system of thinking about and interacting with the world, so as to cope with the fact that the world is so uncertain, right? I mean, it really, we don't know what is going to happen in the long-term future. We can tell ourselves we see trend lines, and we might, you know, but we don't have any proof of what the world is going to look like in 10 or 20 years. And so, to a certain extent, we need, if we want to say that we do, like, that's a faith proposition, right? Like, I believe that the world is going to look this way based on evidence, but it's still a belief.
Yeah, I guess, am I tech agnostic if I am not confident about what tech will bring about? And also, I guess if my instinct would be that just like tech today ends up being positive and helpful to some people and unhelpful and negative to other people, that it will probably continue to do that in the future. It's not like we reach some definitive utopia or dystopia. It's just that, like, we kind of like the world today. There's some people that are benefiting a bit in some ways and benefiting less in other ways from change. Does that make me tech agnostic?
Well, I mean, certainly, I am advocating for people to be more tech agnostic. And I think some of what you're saying, is in that category. It's this idea that, we're not sure how things are going to go, and we can, but I what I really want to emphasize about why I think tech agnosticism is an important concept in this day and age is, I was describing earlier this sort of confidence, or this sort of strong faith that certain kinds of leaders like a Trump will have in this day and age, where, he is a great example of this, because, he's a 34-time convicted felon, whose own former chief of staff, who, by the way, was a general in the Marine Corps, John Kelly, said, compared him to fascism and fascists. And yet we voted for him and elected him to the highest office in the world, because, in large part, he comes across as really confident. And in a very, very fundamentally uncertain world, that confidence has a lot of value to some people. And so, what I'm advocating for is an alternative model where we recognize that there's a beauty and a dignity and an honorableness in not knowing, in not being certain. about what the future holds and not being certain that we have to invest $7 trillion immediately, as Sam Altman is begging us to do. He says because we've got to do all we can to bring about the tech and AI rapture, the coming of the AI God, the miraculous abundant world. Those are, I'm quoting words like miraculous and abundance that he himself uses, biblical sounding terms. Um, I think he needs the 7 trillion because OpenAI is absolutely burning cash right now, and if he doesn't get that kind of investment, his baby, his company might legitimately go belly up because it has no way whatsoever to make a profit right now. So just, push that timeline infinitely into the future with this investment that will make it too big to fail, right? That's why the SoftBank folks actually say, that we need 9 trillion, don't they? In AI investment. But anyway, is it the Bitcoin people that say the 9 trillion? I lose track. Somebody's calling for 9 trillion. Anyway, so in that world, where Eric Schmidt is saying that we're falling desperately behind the Chinese in the AI arms race. And yet AI robots are running around. How do we say this? The AI robots um, are running around. Uh, um, what are they doing? The AI robots? The AI the Chinese AI robots are now rebelling against their one robot actually convinced the other robots to run away from their rulers. This is an actual story out of Chinese AI and of late. And so if that is what you get by moving quickly, maybe there's some real benefit to moving slowly. Maybe there's some real benefit to losing the arms race and gaining ourselves in the process, because maybe the ultimate goal of being human is not victory and conquering and colonizing the stars. Maybe it's looking at one another and at ourselves and appreciating humanness, appreciating the small, everyday, slow process of loving one another, caring about one another, forming a more compassionate society, so that when we eventually project our digital consciousness into the far corners of the universe, trillions of us, AI robots out in space powered by unseen stars and what have you, that when we eventually do that, maybe what we don't want to project is the jerks that we are now to one another all too often out there.